You know that feeling when the narcissist came out on top. He hurt you, humiliated you, played with your feelings like you were a broken toy, and today he's living happily, sleeping peacefully, without a trace of guilt or remorse. While you still wake up in the middle of the night, remembering the cruel things he said, he doesn't even remember your name anymore. While you wonder if it was your fault, if you're crazy, if you deserve to be treated that way, he's already manipulating the next person. Worst of all, he's probably telling everyone that you were the problem, that you were unstable, jealous, complicated. He uses your pain to play the victim and gain sympathy from others. This pisses you off, doesn't it? That feeling of injustice, that he'll never pay for what he did. I understand that perfectly. But what if I told you a secret that would change everything? What if there was a way to humiliate this narcissist in such a way that he would never, but never, be able to recover from it? A revenge so devastating that he would beg for your attention, but you would never give it to him again? I'm not talking about arguing with him. It's not about cursing, exposing him on social media, or making scenes. Those are things for amateurs. What I'm going to teach you is much more powerful. This is a technique based on research by Sigmund Freud, the world's greatest specialist on narcissism, a silent revenge that attacks exactly what the narcissist fears most in the entire world. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to show you step by step how to make this narcissist feel like nothing, like a zero, completely irrelevant, while you regain all your power and never again feel like anyone's victim. You've already tried, haven't you? You've already tried to publicly expose him. You've already tried to make him feel guilty. You've already tried to confront him with all the lies and manipulations. And you know what happened? He simply turned the game against you, made you look crazy, dramatic, vindictive. This happens because you're applying your emotional logic to someone who operates in a completely different system. While you feel guilt, remorse, and empathy, the narcissist simply doesn't have that ability. It's like trying to run an iPhone program on Android. The systems are incompatible. The narcissist doesn't understand regret, but he understands power. He doesn't grasp guilt, but he grasps control. And here's the secret that most people never discover. For a narcissist, the worst feeling in the world isn't being hated, it isn't being exposed, it isn't even being rejected. The worst feeling for a narcissist is being completely irrelevant. Think about it. His entire existence is built on the idea that he's special, important, unique. He needs your reaction, whether positive or negative, to confirm that he's still relevant in your life. When you confront him, when you cry because of him, when you try to expose him, you're secretly giving him exactly what he wants: confirmation that he still has power over you. True revenge lies in attacking this need for relevance, and that changes everything. Write me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to know where the warriors are who will apply this silent revenge. Now I'll show you the first strategy that will make him completely lose control. This is a strategy that Sigmund Freud would consider the most elegant: the devastating power of complete silence. This isn't just ignoring, this isn't just no contact. This is disappearing from his existence without a single word of explanation. The narcissist expects you to react. He counts on your screams, your tears, your desperate attempts to understand what happened. He wants you to beg for explanations, to seek closure, to somehow show that he's still important enough to provoke a reaction. When you simply disappear without drama, without a final message, without explanation, you create a void that destroys him internally. In his mind, he must always have the last word. He must control when and how things end. When you take that control and simply disappear, you steal something fundamental: his sense of self-importance. One of my viewers told me an incredible story. After years of being manipulated by a narcissistic ex-husband, she implemented absolute silence. She blocked all contacts, changed her number, instructed friends and family not to give any information about her. At first he tried everything, she told me: calls from unknown numbers, messages through friends. He even showed up at my work, but I held firm. Zero reaction. After a few weeks he started looking desperate, almost pathetically trying to provoke any reaction from me. That's when I understood. He had lost all power over me. Silence is so powerful because it denies the narcissist the only thing he can't live without: confirmation that he's still relevant in your life. Without that confirmation, his ego starts to crumble. And while he's falling apart, you finally start to truly heal. But silence is just the beginning. The next strategy will attack his most secret fantasy about you. There's a fantasy that feeds the narcissist's ego more than any other, imagining that he destroyed you forever. That after him, you'll never be the same again. That he left you so broken, so insecure, so traumatized, that you'll spend the rest of your life trying to rebuild yourself. This fantasy is like fuel for the narcissistic ego. It makes him feel powerful, important, unforgettable. That's why the second most devastating way to get revenge on him is silent transformation into your best version, but without any effort to show it to him. Attention! I'm not talking about posting happy photos on social media hoping he'll see them. I'm not talking about making sure he knows about your successes or new relationship. I'm talking about real improvement for yourself and only for yourself, knowing that the best revenge is a life well lived. An entrepreneur who was manipulated for years by a narcissistic partner told me, "After I got rid of him, I focused 100% on my personal and professional development, not to prove something to him, but to rebuild myself." 2 years later, a friend told me that my former partner was obsessively interested in what I was doing, where I was working, whether I was speaking badly about him to others. It was eating him up inside, while I wasn't thinking about him anymore. When you improve yourself without any desire to show that improvement to the narcissist, you steal another powerful fantasy from him. The idea that you'll always be defined by your relationship with him, that you'll always be his victim. And what's even more destructive to the narcissistic ego, he'll never know for sure whether you improved despite him or whether he was never important enough in your life to stop you from flourishing. This uncertainty will destroy him internally. But there's an even more cruel strategy waiting. Narcissists are masters of projection. They project their insecurities onto you, make you carry their shame, blame you for their own flaws. For years you absorbed all these projections, believing that there was really something wrong with you. The third way of silent revenge is becoming a broken mirror, reflecting all those projections back at him without saying a single word. How? By developing such a deep understanding of his tactics that they simply can't affect you anymore. When the narcissist tries to make you feel guilty, you recognize that it's his own guilt being projected. When he tries to accuse you of selfishness, you see that it's his selfishness manifesting. You don't have to show him this, you don't have to discuss it. You simply know, and that knowledge protects you. A therapist shared with me the case of a client who was married to a narcissist for 12 years. When she finally understood all the manipulation techniques her husband used, it was like waking up from a nightmare. He still tried the same tricks, but they didn't work anymore. She could see everything clearly, like watching a movie she knew by heart. The most interesting thing, the therapist continued, was that the husband started to destabilize because nothing he did generated the expected response. It was as if he was suddenly fighting an opponent who could predict all his moves. When you become that broken mirror, the narcissist loses his most powerful weapon, the ability to manipulate your emotions. And without that weapon, he starts to feel completely powerless. For him, it's terrifying to discover that you've become immune to his manipulations. But the next strategy is even more devastating. The narcissist can live with your love. He can live with your hate. He can even live with your contempt. What he absolutely cannot stand is your genuine indifference. The fourth way of revenge is cultivating authentic indifference toward him. This isn't pretending you don't care while secretly still being affected. This is reaching the point where you truly feel nothing toward him. No love, no hate, no resentment, simply nothing. A woman who freed herself from a narcissistic mother described this process to me. For years, I oscillated between intense love for my mother and hating her with all my might. I realized that both emotions kept me trapped with her. I truly freed myself only when I reached the point where I could think about her without any strong emotion, when I could see her manipulations as simple behaviors of a damaged person, without any impact on me. Authentic indifference is different from no contact. You can maintain no contact and still be obsessively focused on the narcissist, checking his social media, constantly talking about him, allowing him to occupy significant space in your mind. True indifference means that even if you met him on the street, you would look at him like a complete stranger. No emotion, no history, no connection. For the narcissist, this authentic indifference is like death while living. If he can't provoke any emotion in you, then in a way he doesn't exist for you. And for someone whose existence depends on being important in other people's lives, this is the worst form of non-existence. But there's a final strategy that is absolutely devastating. The last and most powerful way of silent revenge is developing complete immunity to narcissistic tactics. Not just this specific narcissist, but any other you might encounter in the future. This means you've learned so much from the experience that you've become completely impossible to manipulate. You can recognize the warning signs from the first meeting. You can see through the mask before it's even fully put on. You can establish strong boundaries and maintain them without feeling guilty. A psychologist who grew up with a narcissistic father and then had several toxic relationships told me, after years of therapy and self-discovery, I reached the point where I can recognize a narcissist in the first minutes of conversation. Tactics that would have fooled me before are now so obvious they almost make me laugh. It's like I developed an emotional immune system specific against narcissism. For the narcissist, there's nothing more frustrating than a person who cannot be manipulated. It's like a vampire facing someone immune to his bite. No matter what he tries, he cannot feed on you. Most devastating is that this immunity isn't something he can overcome with new tactics or more sophisticated strategies. It's permanent. You've fundamentally changed the way you respond to manipulation. When you reach this level of immunity, the narcissist not only loses power over you, he loses hope of ever regaining it. And for someone who lives to control others, the loss of that hope is the ultimate defeat. Now I'll show you how to implement all of this in practice. Knowing these strategies is just the first step. Now you need to know how to effectively implement them in your specific situation. And above all, you need to make an honest reflection. What are you really looking for in this revenge? If your motivation is still to make the narcissist suffer, then you're still emotionally connected to him. You're still allowing him to occupy space in your mind and heart. True silent revenge doesn't come from the desire to hurt, but from a genuine desire to heal. Think about how much time you've spent mentally replaying conversations and situations, trying to understand where you went wrong, fantasizing about scenarios where you finally say everything you think, hoping that someday he'll acknowledge the evil he did. All that time and emotional energy could have been invested in you. Implementing these strategies requires a fundamental change, stopping being focused on the narcissist and starting to focus on yourself. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that requires brutal honesty with yourself. You must recognize the ways you allowed the narcissist to control you even after the relationship ended. One executive told me, "I realized that although we broke up years ago, I was still living my life reacting to him. I chose clothes thinking about what he would think, made decisions based on what he would say. Even my new relationships were influenced by fear of meeting another narcissist." To effectively implement these strategies, you must accept that you'll never receive the closure you're seeking from the narcissist. He won't fully acknowledge the damage he caused, won't sincerely apologize, won't fundamentally change who he is. Accepting this is painful but also liberating. The next step is crucial for success. Narcissistic abuse literally creates new neural pathways in your brain, patterns of thinking and emotional response that were reinforced over a long time. Reconfiguring these pathways is like learning to walk again after an accident. You must identify the thought patterns that keep you connected to the narcissist. Every time you mentally replay the relationship, every time you imagine confrontation scenarios, every time you ask yourself, "Why did he do this to me?" you strengthen that neural connection. The first step is learning to recognize these patterns and consciously redirect them. When you catch yourself thinking about him, stop immediately and focus on something related to your personal development, your goals, your happiness. Second, develop a support network that understands what you went through. This could be friends, family, a therapist specializing in this, or support groups for people who survived narcissistic abuse. Having people who validate your experience is fundamental. Third, practice patience with yourself. Emotional detachment from the narcissist is a process, not an event. There will be days when you feel like you've gone backward, days when anger or pain return intensely. This doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. As a trauma specialist explained, recovery from narcissistic abuse isn't linear. It's like an ascending spiral. Sometimes it seems like you've returned to the same place, but in reality, you're at a higher level of understanding and healing. Applying these strategies isn't just about how you react to the narcissist. It's about how you relate to yourself. It's about rebuilding trust in your own perception, in your inner worth, in your right to establish boundaries. And here's the most powerful truth. Over time, you'll notice that your desire for revenge starts to diminish. Not because you've forgiven the narcissist, but because your well-being is no longer connected to him in any way. There will come a moment when you can think about the narcissist without your heart racing, without cold sweats, without filling your mind with obsessive thoughts. That will be the moment when you'll know your revenge is complete. We've reached the end of this transformational journey, and now you understand why the only truly devastating revenge against a narcissist isn't attacking him, exposing him, or trying to make him feel guilty. It's completely freeing yourself from his emotional and psychological control over you. The 5 strategies we analyzed: absolute silence, invisible transformation, broken mirror, authentic indifference, and total immunity, aren't just forms of revenge. They're ways to reclaim your life, your power, and your future. This silent revenge has a paradoxical effect. While you experience your greatest victory, freedom, the narcissist experiences his worst nightmare, irrelevance. He can live being hated, criticized, even publicly exposed. What he cannot bear is being forgotten, being irrelevant, not provoking any emotion in you. Today, you can begin this transformation. It might be blocking the narcissist on all social media, scheduling an appointment with a therapist who specializes in this, or simply making a conscious decision to stop checking his profiles anymore. Every small step takes you away from his control and brings you closer to your freedom. And remember, this isn't revenge you do once. It's a daily commitment to yourself, a constant practice of choosing yourself. One day you'll notice that weeks, maybe months, have passed without thinking about the narcissist even once. On that day, you'll know you've won. You didn't just get revenge, you freed yourself forever. Your emotional freedom is the only revenge that truly matters. And now you know exactly how to achieve it.